गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यमीश्वरम् नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Okay, please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter number 18, verse number 9. Karyamityeva yat karma
Karyamitteva Jatkarma
niyatam kriyate Arjuna
Niyatam Kriyate Arjuna
sangam tyaktva phalam chaiva
Sangam Taktva Phalam Chaiva
satyagas satviko mataha.
Satyaga Sattiko Mataha.
Would any of the devotees like to chant, please?
Karyam ityeva yat karma
Karyamityeva yat karma
niyatam kriyate Arjuna
Niyatam Kriyate Arjuna
sangam tyaktva phalam chaiva
Sangam Taktva Phalam Chaiva
satyaga satviko mataha.
Satyaga Sattiko Mataha. Karyamitteva Jatkarma
Karyamityeva yat karma
Niyatam Kriyate Arjuna
niyatam kriyate Arjuna
Sangam Taktva Phalam Chaiva
sangam tyaktva phalam chaiva
Tyaga Sattika Mata.
satyaga satviko mataha.
Karyam ite eva yat karma
Karyamityeva yat karma
niyatam kriyate Arjuna
Niyatam
niyatam
Kriyate
kriyate
Arjuna
Arjuna
sangam takva phalam chaiva
sangam
Taktva
tyaktva
Phalam
phalam
Chaiva
chaiva
satagya sadvika mataha.
satyaga satviko
Sattika
mataha.
Mataha.
कार्यम् इत्ययेव यत्कर्म
Karyamitteva
Eva yat
Jatkarma
karma
नियतां कार्यतेऽर्जुन
niyatam
Niyatam
tantva
Kriyate
kriyate
Arjuna
Arjuna
सङ्गं त्यक्त्वा फलं चैव
Sangam
sangam
Taktva
tyaktva
Phalam
phalam
Chaiva
chaiva
सत्यागा सत्विको मतः
Satyaga
satyaga
Sattvico Mataha.
sattva.
कार्यम् इति एव यत् कर्म
Karyamityeva
Karyamitteva
yat
Jatkarma
karma
नियतं क्रियते अर्जुन
Niyatam
yatam
Kriyate
kriyate
Arjuna
Arjuna
संगं त्यक्त्वा फलं चैव
Sangam
Sangam
Tattva
Tattva
Phalam
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 Chaiva
chaiva
सात्याग सात्विको मतः
Satyago
satyaga
Go
Mataha
sattva
Mataha
mataha. Thank you. We'll read word for word. Karyam,
Karyam.
Karyam
it must be done.
It
It
must
must
be
be done.
done.
Iti,
Iti.
Iti
does.
Thus.
does.
Eva,
Eva.
Eva
indeed.
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 Yat,
Yet.
Yet
which.
Which.
which
Karma,
Karma.
karma
work.
work,
work
Work.
Niyatam,
niyatam,
Niyatam.
prescribed.
prescribed,
prescribed
Prescribed.
Kriyate,
kriyate,
Kriyate.
kriyate
is performed.
is
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 performed.
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 Arjuna,
Arjuna.
Arjuna,
O Arjuna.
O
O
O
Arjuna,
Arjuna,
Arjuna.
Sangam,
Sangam,
Sangam.
Sangam,
association.
association,
Association.
association,
Taktva,
yaktva,
Taktva.
Yatva,
giving up.
giving
Giving
up,
up.
giving up,
Phalam,
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 Phalam.
the result.
the
The
result,
the
result.
result,
Cha,
cha,
Cha.
Cha,
also.
Also.
also,
also,
Eva,
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 Eva.
certainly.
certainly,
Certainly.
Saha,
Taha.
taha,
Saha,
that.
That.
that,
Tyagaha,
tyaga,
Tagaha.
Tagyaha,
renunciation.
renunciation,
Renunciation.
renunciation,
Satvikaha,
satvika,
Satvikaha,
Satvikaha.
in the mode of goodness.
in the
In the
in the
mode of
mode
mode of
of goodness.
goodness.
Mataha,
mataha,
Mataha.
Mataha,
in my opinion.
In my
my
in my
opinion.
opinion.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O Arjuna, when one performs his prescribed duty only because it ought to be done and renounces all material association and all attachment to the fruit, his renunciation is said to be in the mode of goodness. Purport: prescribed duties must be performed with this mentality. One should act without attachment for the result. He should be disassociated from the modes of work. A man working in Krishna consciousness in a factory does not associate himself with the work of the factory, nor with the workers of the factory. He simply works for Krishna. And when he gives up the result for Krishna, he is acting transcendentally. So we are on the last chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. It is so wonderful that the devotees here in Connecticut, you started reading Bhagavad Gita every day. When did you start this? How long ago? I think Gita Mala Mataji would know. She is a
yeah,
pretty good attendant.
right about the time COVID started.
So maybe November, December timeframe or January?
No, like I think March, I think.
March.
March is
Wow.
when, yeah.
It's pretty amazing. In 6 months, if we read Bhagavad Gita every day, we can finish in 6 months. This is wonderful. This is wonderful. So those who have attended regularly, my congratulations, because it's not an easy thing to study like this regularly.
I mean,
So
we started every day it was going on Sunday school class only, but from March we started regularly.
which chapter were you on in March?
I think we started from 9th, Prabhu, 9th chapter.
Ninth
Yeah.
chapter.
No,
Okay.
when we were last at the temple, it was actually chapter 10.
Yeah, 9
Oh,
or 10
chapter
like
10.
that. Yeah, we started
Okay.
regularly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah. That's still pretty good. 8 chapters in 6 months. That's wonderful. So this 18th chapter, does anyone remember the title of the chapter?
Moksha Yoga.
Okay, yeah, it could be Moksha Yoga. How does Prabhupada give the title of the chapter?
Because it talks about moksha.
Yes, that's
Perfection
right.
of renunciation, I think, right?
Yeah, conclusion, the perfection of renunciation. So this is the concluding chapter. Definitely it is the Moksha Yoga. Acharyas describe this as Moksha Yoga because every chapter in the Bhagavad Gita will get a title associated with yoga because Bhagavad Gita is the book of yoga. So this is the 18th chapter, and if someone is presenting something, what do you find at the end of an article or a book or something? What do you find at the end, towards the end of a presentation?
Summary.
Yes,
The
summary.
conclusion.
Yes, the conclusion, the summary, what is the main, conclusion of everything. And also, in an academic way, when it's presented, you'll also see a summary of everything. So at the beginning, the author may state the objective of what he's going to do, give a little bit of information in an abstract manner, and then he delves into the topics in a deeper manner. And then towards the end, he wraps up and he says, this is the conclusion. So now the topics that we're discussing so far, have we come across these in the previous chapters?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Mataji, so can you give me an example where it's correct, you're right.
Prabhuji, 1 to 12 verses talks about Karma Yoga, and similarly, I think the last verses, I don't remember the exact, but the last verses talks about the Bhakti Yoga, like that.
Yes. So these topics were already previously discussed, and now Arjuna is bringing Krishna to this point of giving a conclusion. From the beginning, there has been confusion on certain things. Confusion on whether to act or not to act. Right? Does anyone remember Arjuna asking this previously?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So could you recall where?
In the second chapter.
Yeah, second chapter, at the beginning, he's confused and he takes shelter of Krishna and he asks Krishna to tell what is good for him, right? So,
right.
Yachreya Nishchitam Ekam, right? Tell me one thing that is good for me. You tell me what is good for me. And when he surrenders to Krishna, he says. But right after the second chapter, because in the second chapter, Krishna accepted Arjuna as a disciple. So Arjuna surrendered to Krishna, and then Krishna accepted him as a disciple. And then in the second chapter, does anyone remember what was the theme? What things were described in the second chapter? High level, it doesn't need to be detailed.
About the body, the soul, about Sankhya philosophy, Prabhuji.
Yes, about Sankhya, right? He discussed about Sankhya, and then that Sankhya was kind of the first half, right? There was second half something else.
Jnana, and he talks about Buddhi Yoga.
Yes, Buddhi Yoga, particularly Buddhi Yoga. So the Jnana kind of comes under Sankhya, but then he also talks about Buddhi Yoga. And in between, he talks about this guy called Sthita Prajna and, trying to withdraw your senses like a tortoise withdraws its limbs. So he explains few things, and Arjuna thought, okay, then the goal is actually to, withdraw yourself like a tortoise and just get out of everything. And even these waters are entering into the ocean, and ocean is not disturbed. So several verses, Krishna talks about a lot of different things. And then, but towards the end, he indicates like, yeah, therefore, Arjuna, now you have to fight. So Arjuna is confused. Then he raises this question. Arjuna is not passive listener. He was not just, okay, Krishna, you tell me, I'll do. Nor Krishna is, trying to see Arjuna as a dumb student, right? He wants, he chastises Arjuna, He lets Arjuna ask questions. Bhagavad Gita is a samvada, right? It's a samvada. It's going back and forth. Krishna is speaking, Arjuna is expressing his doubt, and then it moves on like that. So at the beginning of the 3rd chapter, Arjuna asks this question, Jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhir janardana tat kim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi Keshava. So he addresses Krishna as Keshava and Janardana. Jayati chet karmanaste mata buddhir janardana. If you consider buddhi to be higher than karma, then why are you engaging me in this tat kim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi Keshava? Why are you engaging me in this ghastly warfare? Because Arjuna has kind of decided to cop out. He wanted to escape. Right? It's very nice, Krishna, you spoke about all these things, so therefore I think now I should not fight. I can drop my bow and arrow, which he already actually put down his bow and arrow, so he's about to, ready to go to the forest or live by begging. But then Krishna spoke certain things, but it seems he spoke about 2 different things. So the question started over there, right in the 3rd chapter. This idea of whether to give up or whether to act. And now the same thing is coming up again. And this came up again in the 5th chapter as well. Krishna has to, after 3rd chapter Karma Yoga, 4th chapter, then the transcendental knowledge. After speaking that transcendental knowledge, again, Krishna tells Arjuna, you have to fight. And then again in the 5th chapter, Arjuna has this question. And then again, there also he addresses this idea of, whether to act or whether to renounce. And then in the 6th chapter also, he describes who is a sannyasi. 6th chapter, verse number 1. There, Krishna tells Arjuna, Anashrita karma phalam karyam karma karoti yaha sa sannyasi cha yogi cha na niragnir na chakriyah. He says Anashrita karma phalam. Even in today's verse, we see this word karma phalam. Right? We have this word karma phalam. What does karma phalam mean?
What you have when you do a deed, what you get from it. That's the karma phala.
Yes. The word phalam. Phalam literally means what?
The results.
Yeah, the fruit also, right? So in Hindi, the fruits are called phal. They're called phal. So phalam is the fruit of the work. So this karma phalam. So Krishna said back in the chapter number 6 itself, Anashrita karma phalam karyam karma karoti yaha. So that person who will do his prescribed duty without, desiring his karma phala, that person is sannyasi, that person is also a yogi. And now here he's saying that person is a sannyasi and that person is a tyagi. So he's describing 2 things in this chapter. At the beginning, Arjuna asked, what is the difference between tyaga and sannyasa? Does anyone remember what's the difference? Difference between tyaga and sannyasa.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So Tyaga means giving up the results of the actions, and Sannyasa means a renounce order, giving up the kama karma.
Yes. So one is giving up the action, but the other is giving up the fruit of the action, right? So, but it is not just giving up any action, because a lot of people have this idea that sannyasa means you give up all activities. But Krishna is saying no. Kamyanam karmanam nyasam. Kamyanam karmana, kamya karma, right? So that fruitive activities, that are for the sake of fulfilling our own desires, kama, that actions that we do for our own pleasure. So he's saying that giving up those, that's called sannyasa. So one is you do not do the activity. The other is you do the activity, but you give up the fruit. So this is the definition that Krishna gives. But in the end, these two are not different. They are one and the same. Why? Because Krishna has already explained that. Like in the chapter number 6, verse number 1 that I was quoting, Anashrita karma phalam. That's what a tyagi is doing, right? Tyagi is sarva karma phalatyagam, giving up the fruit of all the activities. That is called tyaga. But in the 6th chapter, he already said karma phalatyagam. A person who does that, saha sannyasi, saha yogi cha. He's a sannyasi and is yogi. So what that means is, technically speaking, a sannyasa and yoga are the same things. Sorry, sannyasa and tyaga. And of course, yoga is also same thing, like he has mentioned in chapter number 6. So this is the idea. Now bringing back 18th chapter, because it is conclusion, Krishna is summarizing, and he's giving his final opinion on this one. So now he specifically talked about 3 activities that should not be given up. What are those 3 activities?
Yagna, Dana.
Yes, yagna, dana, and tapa. Yagna, dana, and tapa. And these were discussed in chapter 17 also. We talked about, say, the austerity in 3 modes, what else, the charity in 3 modes, and all these things we already talked about in the 17th chapter as well. But Krishna is bringing those things again into the 18th chapter. The fact that he spent so much time talking about those are very, very important, and those should not be given up. And that's what in the 6th chapter also he said that sannyasi doesn't mean somebody who na niragnir, means that person who doesn't light the fire, or nachakriyaha, that person who doesn't do any activities. Don't think a sannyasi means he doesn't do anything or he doesn't light the fire. So these are, you light the fire to perform yajna, but here yajna should not be given up. But that kind of yajna that a grihastha used to do, that a sannyasi may not do, or sannyasi may not light a fire to cook food for himself. But Srila Prabhupada says it doesn't mean that when a sannyasi is training other people or he's preaching his Krishna consciousness mission, that doesn't mean he doesn't perform fire sacrifice. Prabhupada himself, at the beginning days, he performed fire sacrifice to do wedding ceremony of his disciples, to do initiation ceremony. And Prabhupada himself cooked. Prabhupada was very good cook. But he was cooking for Krishna. So he was lighting the fire. So, but some people think sannyasi should not light the fire. But that's not what Krishna is saying. So specifically, Krishna gave those 3 activities, and he said those activities should not be given up. And now he is describing this renunciation in 3 different modes. Now, giving up activities out of illusion is mode of ignorance. Giving up activities thinking they are troublesome, that's mode of passion. Today's verse is talking about giving up activities. It's actually talking about performing activities, but giving up the attachment to the fruit. As well as he also talks about attachment to the action itself. He uses the word sangam tyaktva phalam chaiva. So if we look at this verse and break it down, karyam ityeva yat karma. So what does karyam mean? What is the meaning of karyam?
Work.
Yes, work. Yeah, karma is work. So in Sanskrit, karya means that which must be done. Karya, karaniya means yes, it is work, but that which must be done. Karyam ityeva yat karma. Now, so we have to do those activities because they need to be done. That's what it is saying. Krishna is saying that person who does it because it needs to be done, because it ought to be done, and renounces all material association and all attachment to the fruit, that renunciation is said to be in the mode of goodness. Now a question may arise, what does it mean, activity that ought to be done? Who is the one who decides what needs to be done and what should not be done? If you ask different people, they'll have different answers, right? I mean, who decides what needs to be done? I can do an activity without being attached to it, whatever I like. Is that considered to be in the mode of goodness? Any thoughts, anybody? How do we know what needs to be done?
From instructions from the Guru and Shastra.
Yes, Gita Malamataji saying from the instructions of Guru and Shastra. Yes, particularly, of course, what Guru instructs is also from the Shastra. So where is it prescribed what needs to be done? In the Shastra. But did Krishna talk about this previously in the Bhagavad Gita?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, does anyone recollect where Krishna said?
When Krishna told
16th chapter end, Prabhu. Krishna says.
Yes, in the 16th chapter, he says, Yash Shastra Vidimutrijya Vartate Kamakarata. So one who gives up the Shastra Vidhi, does his own way, he will not attain perfection. Tasmat Shastram Pramanam Te Karya Karye. Right, so same thing, Karyam. So Shastra is the pramana for what needs to be done and what should not be done. Is there anywhere else in the Bhagavad Gita this was discussed? Very nice, chapter 16, just recently we read it.
7.27 Yat karosi yat agnasi.
Yeah, so that is 9.27.
9.27, yes.
Yeah, yes, there also Krishna says, whatever you do it as an offering to me. Tat kurushva mad arpanam. You do those as an offering to me. Okay, so there you can say that you do it as an offering to me, but what should I do as an offering to him? You know, I will slaughter a goat and offer to Krishna. Is that okay?
Patram pushpam phalam toyam.
Okay. Yes, okay. For Krishna, whatever he wants to eat, let's only give those things for Krishna's eating. Okay. But what about, other things? You may not give it to him for eating. You may do it for some other reason, right? You may abuse people or do a lot of these things. The Shastra Pramanam is perfect, but I'm looking for other things where Krishna has said that, because we are saying that 18th chapter is the summary. That's why I want to make sure to go back and dig into other things that we have already read.
Chanting for Krishna.
Yes, that's also one of the karma. We have to chant for the sake of the Lord. So what I was thinking is right in the third chapter. Right in the third chapter. Yes, Yagnarthat karmanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha. Wonderful. That's also where we have to perform activities for the sake of yajna. You are very close. Okay. Now, do you remember the sequence of those verses? How does that go? Annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyadanna sambhavaha yagnad bhavati parjanyo yajna karma samudbhavaha. We all have to eat, right? Annad bhavanti bhutani. Where is the food coming from? How do we get the food? Food comes because of rain. Parjanyat anna sambhavaha. When there is rain,
Hare Krishna,
then
Prabhuji.
yes.
We lost your voice for little time.
Okay, so I'll repeat. So I was talking about third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Annad bhavanti bhutani. All the living entities, they are subsisting on food grains. Parjanyad anna sambhavaha. But this food is coming because of the rain. If there is no rainfall, there is no food. Prabhupada says, you rascals, you cannot eat nuts and bolts, right? Because that's what we're manufacturing in the factories. At that time, during Srila Prabhupada's time, the Industrial Revolution, it was mostly mechanical, right? Now it has gone further and further into this software and all these things, electronics, mechanical to electrical. So from rain, we get food grains. But where is the rain coming from?
Clouds.
Clouds. But how does that happen? How does the process? Why do demigods, what is the impetus for demigods to give us rainfall?
Through yajna? Like
Through yajna, yes. Through yajna. Yajnat bhavati parjanya. Now where is the yajna coming from? Yajna karma samudbhavaha. Yajna karma samudbhavaha. One of you told yagnarthat karma no anyatra. So by the karma, yajna is taking birth. When we perform our activities, we get the food grains, and then the Vedas prescribe you have to perform the yajna. So yajna is born out of our prescribed duties. Yajna karma samudbhava. Now, then the next one is karma brahmodbhavam vidhi. Now, where is this karma coming from? Who is to tell what I should do, what you should do, what everybody should do? We said, yes, Shastram, right? Shastram Pramanam in the 16th chapter. But right at the beginning, in the 3rd chapter itself, Krishna has said that. What? Karma brahmodbhavam vidhi. Karma is coming from Brahma. Now, this word Brahma has multiple meanings. Brahma means the Vedas. Brahma can also means the spirit soul, Aham Brahmasmi. Brahma is also Lord Brahma. So there is, Lord Brahma is masculine form of the word Brahma, and the other two words are the neuter words. So, karma brahmodbhavam vidhi, brahmakshara samudbhavam. Then where is the Vedas coming from? Vedas are coming from the Supreme Lord. So from the Supreme Lord, the Vedas are coming. The Vedas are prescribing the activities for us, what needs to be done. So karyam ityeva yat karma. Where is the karyam coming from? Karyam is coming from the Shastra, from the Veda, from the spiritual master. So all of you told these answers. I'm just trying to connect it with what Krishna has said so that we can remember that this chapter is kind of summarizing these concepts that we have already learned throughout the Bhagavad Gita. So karyam ityeva yat karma. We do the activity just because it has to be done. Niyatam kriyate Arjuna. Now this word niyatam kriyate Arjuna. Ganapati Govinda Prabhu talked about nitya karma, naimittika karma, these concepts. So does anyone remember what was that nitya karma? So these are the prescribed activities that we do on a day-to-day basis, like chanting Gayatri, taking bath to do our pujas. So we have so many activities that we do that are prescribed for householders, for different, ashramas. So these activities we have to do because they are prescribed for us to do. Now, he also qualifies this. Sangam tyaktva phalam chaiva. Without sangam, without association, we say sadhu sangha, right? Sadhu sangha, this word. So sangha means association, but what does it exactly mean in this context? Sangam tyaktva phalam chaiva. He is telling Arjuna to give up two things. One is the fruit and the other one is the attachment. But it is not quite karma phala sangam. This is not attachment to the fruit. This is something else. Because this is an and. It is not an adjective to the fruit. Sangam tyaktva phalam chaiva. So two things, that cha means and. You have to give up sangam and you have to also give up the fruit. So the fruit is the result of the activity. But what is sangam here? Anyone? Are there any suggestions from anyone? What does this sangam could mean here?
Is it attachment?
Yes, it is attachment, but attachment to what? You're right, Kamala Mataji.
Fruitive activities.
Well, in this case, he not attached to the fruit, right? Already he said. So it cannot be fruitive. But then what is this attachment again?
Liberation?
Okay, liberation, mukti, no.
Attachment to activities.
Yes, yes. What does it mean? Attachment to activity mean? What does it mean?
Like whatever you are, you should not be get attached to that. In case if you cannot do it, I mean, if you don't have to do it, suppose you are doing any service at the temple, and that service, if somebody else, I mean, your Shiksha Guru tells you don't do that service, then also you just detach from that activity.
Yeah, very good realization, right? Sometimes it may be an activity, it's prescribed for us, and then the prescription is taken out and the service will be given to someone else. And it will be a disaster. It will be a disaster, right? to give up that attachment to do that service. In the beginning, it may be there, the attachment may be there for the service instead of to Krishna. But later we see, okay, whatever Krishna wants. It's okay in the beginning if we have attachment to our service. But this attachment, what Mataji has explained, is in the right direction. And this attachment is actually considering ourselves the doer of the activity. Considering ourselves to be the doer of the activity. Krishna explained long ago that don't consider ourselves to be the cause of the fruit of the activity. Now, this is a very famous verse. Everybody in India must have heard about this verse. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Which verse I'm talking about? Yes, so many microphones were unmuted, right? Everybody knows this. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala hetur bhur mate sangosva karmani. Ma karma phala hetuhu. What does hetu mean? Hetu means the reason, the cause. So karma phala hetu. Okay, I'm not attached to the fruit. Okay. So I did the service, I cooked it, you enjoy it. But I am the one who cooked it. You better remember that, right? You better remember that. You take the prasadam, that's fine, but announce my name. I am the doer. I am the person who cooked the prasadam. One time Srila Prabhupada said, devotees made nice prasadam, and the prasadam was very nice. And Prabhupada said, all glories to the cookers, all glories to the cookers, right? The people who cook prasadam. So it's nice to appreciate, we have to appreciate, but this thinking that I am the doer, Krishna is telling you, give up that thing. Ma karma phala heturbur, you are not the cause of the result of your activity. And the fruit also doesn't belong to you, right? Both karma phala as well as sangam, which is equivalent to considering ourselves as the doer. So do the activity without considering ourselves to be the doer, and then as well as the fruit, it will not belong to us. So this type of tyaga, this is called satviko mataha. This tyaga is considered to be tyaga, the renunciation in the mode of goodness. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada gives some practical advice for us. A man working in Krishna consciousness in a factory. So now the action itself here is not necessarily directly Krishna consciousness, because a person working in the factory is not the same as a person cooking prasadam in the temple. In terms of the activity, it's not directly a Krishna conscious activity, right? Working in the factory. But even a person working in the factory, if he gives the fruit of his work to Krishna for the purpose of Krishna consciousness, then that's also considered to be tyaga in the mode of goodness. And Srila Prabhupada is saying that person is also, he doesn't associate himself with the work or the workers. So that means there's another definition of association here. In the Upadeshamrita also, if any of you have read Upadeshamrita, there this concept of association is discussed by Srila Rupa Goswami. And that association means intimately associating, which means inviting them to our home for prasadam, or we go to their home for prasadam, we exchange gifts, we talk in a confidential manner. So this is a deeper level of association. We say, okay, we go to work, we work on projects together, then am I not associating? Why is Prabhupada saying he's not associating with the work or the workers? So association means, as I said, it's a deeper level of getting into each other's lives, where our lives are being influenced by the other person, and then we are influencing the life of the other person. So in the circumstances where we have to associate in the factory, at our workplace with people, it is recommended that we give association. That means we share in some form our Krishna consciousness with the people around us. Bake some nice cookies or cupcakes, or just distribute it to people. And when there is an opportunity, we can preach. It may not be directly, it could be indirectly done, right? For example, you are at work and then it's a nice sunny day, nice springtime, and you say, wow, spring is wonderful. Of all the seasons, spring is the best season, and you start glorifying spring. Is that Krishna consciousness?
No, Prabhu.
Anyone else?
Did we lose you again for a little while?
Yeah, I was asking. So we are at a workplace and there's a friend, and we could talk about so many things, but then we say, wow, today the weather is so nice, and this is the spring season. The spring is the best of all the seasons. Spring is wonderful, and you glorify spring season. Is that in Krishna consciousness in some way?
Yes, I mean, Krishna says of seasons, he is flower bearing spring.
Yes, right?
Yes.
Rituganam kusumakaraha. The name of spring is in Sanskrit is kusumakara, that which bears the flower. Kusuma means flower. Kusumakara means that creates flowers. That season, that which creates, that brings forth the flowers is kusumakara. So yes, we can talk like that. If we don't have an opportunity to speak directly, we can give them this conception of the first level of God realization, which is this Virat conception, right? So in this way, we can associate with people. It may seem a secular topic. We may not jump directly into Krishna consciousness, but there are so many ways we can talk with people about Krishna consciousness. My coworkers, my boss, his mother, she's very old and she got dementia, and she sees things that are not there. And she complains there are people in the house, there are people in the backyard, and she freaks out, panics, and she was, her dad is not getting enough sleep, and she was becoming violent. And then they took her to, to hospital, to old age care center, and they put her over there. And then in one day they called them back. We cannot keep her. Why? Her situation is really, really very bad, and she needs 24-hour care. Somebody should be there for 24 hours. And then they're going to charge them much more, already a few thousands to keep her every month, and then to keep a full-time person. And he's a friend of mine, and from long time we've been together. So then I asked Jeremy, how are you doing? Jeremy, how are you doing? And then he explains. And one day he put his hand on his head and he said, man, this old age. This old age. This is the same person 10 years ago we're talking about. I said, Jeremy, old age is very problematic. Oh, Srinivas, what's the problem with old age? You can go to an old age center and play poker every day and watch television and eat some good food. We had this discussion, and it's the same man, not even 10 years, probably this was 16 years ago, he told me this. At that time I was, there's no fanatic than a newly converted person, right? So you take up Krishna consciousness fresh and you are the fanatic preacher. So I used to preach very strongly. We used to share a cube, and then he took up management position. I took up technical position, and I managed one team. We managed one team, and then I came back to his team, that team that he's managing. And then now he's the one who is saying that, oh man, old age. I didn't say, Jeremy, remember that conversation in 2003, 2004? I didn't say that, but I did tell him, Jeremy, there are 4 things that are problematic: birth, death, old age, and disease. Janma, mrityu, jara, vyadhi. Right? So a little bit more preaching opportunity. So in this way, we may go to factory, but we associate with people and we give them the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. We give them some prasadam. Right? There may be workplace restrictions and stuff, but they will not forget. They will not forget these things that we say. I have known people who, some of my co-workers who just came to Bhakti Vriksha 2 times. And 10 years later, you meet them again and they remember, you were reading some book and you said something from that book. I still remember that. I try to think about that wise saying all the time. So Bhagavad Gita is like that. Whatever little we can give to people, they will keep with them. So this is the purpose actually why we go to work. His Holiness Hanumat Preshika Swami, my spiritual master, always says, remember you go to work also to give people the association and the things that you tell them, everything they remember, give them some prasadam. And that's the work itself, so that we are always conscious of Krishna and think that I am not the doer. Even at the workplace, we are not the doer. When you chant your rounds, when we chant our rounds nicely and go to work, somehow things happen very nicely. But we don't chant our rounds, we go to work. And it seems, sometimes we push our rounds aside so that we do the work. But that work is not getting done. Did anyone have this experience? That you kind of postpone your spiritual priorities and focus on your work, but it's not getting done properly.
Yeah.
Yes, Prabhu. I had that experience.
Yeah, we'll have this experience. So therefore, we should go with this mentality that I am not the doer. The Lord in my heart, Krishna in my heart, Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sannivishto, Mattasmritir Jnanam Apohanamsha. That knowledge Krishna is giving me to manage this project, to architect this solution, to write this piece of software code, to deal with these customers. whatever it may be, this is coming from Krishna. And Krishna is situated in my heart, and Krishna is situated in the heart of these other people. So let me respect them because Krishna is in their heart. And sometimes they demonstrate much more intelligence than we do. They're very smart people at work. And many times my spiritual master says, when we're preaching, don't think that they are, dumb. Go with this impression that they're actually smarter than you. And they may even have a lot of qualities, good qualities that you don't have. The only thing they are lacking is Krishna. Somehow or the other, if we can bring them to Krishna, they may be better devotees than us. So if we go with this mindset that I am not the doer, Krishna is actually the doer. And when we do get the result, when we do get that paycheck, when we do get that stocks or the bonus or the paycheck or the promotion, it's the fruit belongs to Krishna. So if we go this understanding with our workplace and we tell this to ourselves, then we can work in the mode of a tyagi. And then we can use the output, the money that we get to practice our own Krishna consciousness, make our home a temple, to give donations to the institution for spreading Krishna consciousness, in helping our family members, our relatives, others, in sponsoring so many things, giving charity. We can do a lot of work for our own Krishna consciousness and for spreading Krishna consciousness. So these are some of the takeaways from this verse. Thank you very much for your attention and participation. And we have 6 more minutes. So does any one of you want to share your realizations or some of the comments or questions on this topic?
I want to make a comment. You said you took the opportunity to preach at work, right?
Yeah.
It reminded me, this was many years ago, actually, when we actually wore suits to work. I don't know if you remember those days. You might be too young. You might be too young for that, So I had on my jacket lapel, I had a Narasimha button, on a Narasimha Chaturdashi day. So, and we were having a large team meeting, and somebody asked me, like, what is that button on your, is it the Beauty and the Beast, Narasimha button. And I took the opportunity to tell them the whole Narasimha story. And they were like so impressed. I told them how this demon had asked for a boon, and he thought he was outwitting the Lord. And actually the Lord ended up outwitting him without denying any part of the boon, the day and night and everything. They were so impressed that the Lord actually outwitted a demon. So just by wearing the Narasimha button, I got the opportunity to tell the whole Narasimha story to the team.
Yes, yes.
Sometimes you can use those opportunities, like you said.
Yeah. Wonderful example. Those little things, Krishna will give us opportunities. Thank you, Mataji, for sharing that. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes,
there's a saying that if the Lord doesn't want anything to happen, that will never happen. And only because He's the one who makes everything happen. So it can't happen without Krishna's will or willpower. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for that comment. Yeah. Only if we can remember that in all our activities, it would be wonderful. Then then we can get to the point that, okay, I'm not the doer. Anyone else? Any questions, comments?
Prabhu, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I have one question.
Yes, Prashant.
So this world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. So my understanding was whatever the abominable thing that we do in this world is something the highest one that is being done in the spiritual world. Is that true?
Not necessarily like that. But every activity that is there in this world, it may be in its pure form, but here we may mix in a wrong way also, right? We may mix things in an inappropriate manner in this material world. Not necessarily that every type of thing exactly is there in the spiritual world. It could be there in a different form, right? For example, you know, if you make a nice ice cream with different ingredients, and you make pizza with some other ingredients, but if you mix, you make a broccoli ice cream, it's not so good, right? So that mixture, broccoli ice cream is not something that should be there, you know, but it could be there with different ingredients, but the concept of ice cream will be there, like that. So but the broccoli ice cream may not be there, but ice cream with other ingredients may be there. So in that sense, there may be different mellows and everything that may exist in the spiritual world. It's not necessarily that everything that's here must be there in the same fashion.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Maybe I had another question, little bit out of context, but I don't know if it's the right time to ask.
I can actually speak a little bit more on this one. For example, the concept of death, right? There is no death for the spirit soul. Death is only in the material world. It's just change of body. So it is misidentification, because we are giving up this material body, because we are identifying with the material body. We are thinking we are dying, but actually we are not dying. Even in the material world, we are not dying. But that idea of death is an illusion. But life is the one that's there, which is there in the material world. It is also there in the spiritual world.
Right. And how do we see these acts, Prabhu? Like, you know, in this world, it is not accepted to have any, extramarital affair with another woman. But spiritual world, that is really like a highest one, right? Or eloping a woman in this world is the lowest, most abominable thing. But if you look at the past times, it's the other way around.
Yeah, so this is one of the reasons I know we discuss about Radha Krishna's pastimes, and some devotees would like to do Radha Krishna Katha, Vrajalila. But Srila Prabhupada, you don't find this Srila Prabhupada discussing these in his books, in his lectures. And when they come up in the 10th canto, he talks about them. So we need adhikara. We need adhikara to be able to hear these topics or even discuss these topics. They are very relishable, in a particular mood. So anyway, so this topic of parakiya rasa, it is not that extramarital affair. Actually, we are married in the spiritual world. Everybody, they belong to Krishna. Krishna is the true husband. Krishna says he is the Bharta, Bhokta, Maheshwara. The word Bharta is the Sanskrit word for a husband. And in many languages, in Telugu, in my mother tongue, Bharta literally means husband. But Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita itself is saying, I am the Bharta. And Krishna is already situated in the hearts of every man and woman. No husband can be in the heart of a woman. He may say that I am in your heart, you are in my heart. I gave my heart to you. What is that movies? Dil Se something? I forgot. When we were in school, there used to be some movies, right? Mera dil mein tum, tere dil mein mai, something like that. But we cannot. But Krishna can be in the heart of everybody. So literally, he is the true husband. So now, when Krishna was here, the gopis, they were eternal consorts of Krishna. Their relationship with Krishna is permanent, but their relationship with so-called husband in the material world, that was impermanent. And that's a very high concept. It is not like in the spiritual world, everybody is engaging in extramarital affairs. That's not the point. In the spiritual world, everybody is a servant of Krishna, And only those devotees whose relationship is in the mellow of conjugal rasa, they have that mellow with Krishna. That's not extramarital affair. It's not that all the devotees in the spiritual world, they are engaging with, every devotee is engaging with another devotee's wife. That's absolute nonsense. That's not the point. Those devotees who have their relationship in conjugal mellow with Krishna, they are engaged with Krishna, not with other people. That's their primary mood. Is that okay?
Yeah, Prabhu.
Yeah. So again, these topics, unless we are free from lust, we will not be able to understand those, because those topics are beyond the stage of lust. It's like a kindergarten student trying to understand PhD mathematics, say, not even PhD, say bachelor's degree, differential equations, integration. A kindergarten kid is going, what is this? I don't understand what these differential equations are. So similarly, when we overcome lust completely, then we'll have some idea of what exactly Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is experiencing, what exactly the gopis are experiencing, because that is at a different, on a different realm, those topics. Okay, so it is 4 after, so we'll stop here. Thank you very much, all the devotees, for your association and enthusiastic participation. I'm very grateful for your association. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you,
last
Prabhu.
explanation
Hare
was very
Krishna.
good. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Mataji.
Prabhu.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavanda ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.